This is Biomutant. We're here on Nintendo Switch. Be sure to like the video. Subscribing is great as well. So this is a game that came out a while back on the Xbox. And yeah, I actually quite liked it in terms of gameplay style and what it had to offer. And I saw that it was coming to the Nintendo Switch, and I was like, I'd like to take a look at this and see how the Switch port of the game kind of fares, as it was technically quite demanding, like in terms of performance and everything like that for Xbox when it came out. And I was kind of like, oh, I'm really curious. I mean, that's always my thing for Nintendo Switch, is like taking a look at how these ports, like the sacrifices they kind of have to make these games kind of work on the platform, is always fascinating to me. Genuinely one of the more interesting elements of doing, you know, videos and stuff like that, is just kind of seeing how the different platforms handle different things, and the Switch is always like so intriguing. So for this game, context-wise, you come in and you make your character, and you're in this mutated post-apocalyptic world, and you kind of choose your character with like a bit of a slider thing. You'd be like, okay, I want to be a little bit buffer, and that'll give me more health. And then there's like a resistance slider, and be like, okay, I'm going to be more resistant to like contaminated stuff, whereas like fire resistance isn't going to be as high. And then there's a few of these little sliders you do, and then little perk things, so you can be like, oh, I'm going to be more of like a mercenary samurai kind of thing, or oh, I'm going to be more gunplay. And you kind of make your character, and then from there, you essentially go a little bit forward and customize your character as you progress and become more powerful and stuff like that. And it's really quite neat, and it's got a very like cartoon type of style to it, in terms of being like, oh, you know, it's like a comic book kind of thing. It's a neat game. I actually quite like it personally. I found it to be pretty solid. I mean, it's kind of like one of your run-of-the-mill kind of open world type games in a sense, but like at the same time, you know, it's got like a neat setting, a neat setup as you're like gathering pieces and you're exploring and stuff like that. It's a neat title. So what are we getting here? It's a dynamic 1080p at 30 FPS. When it's docked, which is obviously what you're seeing here, and then, you know, as per usual, becomes 720p dynamic, 30 FPS when you're undocked and on the go, right? So, yeah, I mean, it's aggressively resolution scaling, like very aggressively resolution scaling, and you could definitely tell that they've like pared back the fidelity of like the plants, and there's lots of pop in, and it's, you know, like a lot of the growth and stuff is sort of like toned down, and it takes longer to load. And I mean, it's a Switch port through and through, but it actually seems to be doing a pretty decent job. So I guess you also get the Mercenary loadout DLC for this game as like a freebie included in this one, you know, considering there was stuff that released for it over time. They literally describe it as a open world post-apocalyptic kung fu fable RPG. Yeah, that's a neat way to go about it. And it's like a dying world, but you can tell like super like muddy like textures in places, and it's like a lot of the environmental growth and stuff is pared down. It would actually be really fun to do a comparison between this and like the Xbox version and stuff like that, just to see like the difference between them. Like it seems like the whole thing is kind of here, which is cool, right? You know, once upon a time when they did ports to different platforms, they'd have to like gut out whole sections and everything like that. So it is, you know, it is nice that we don't have to do that anymore in the modern era. Like, even though the Switch is like eons behind other platforms and stuff like that, we're still able to get like a pretty quality like take on it, if that makes sense. Like, you definitely see some companies really putting in an effort and everything like that. I mean, to me though, it's like, yeah, it's way lower resolution, way lower frame rate, but hey, it's the full scope and everything like that. And it's, again, it's just, for me, it's a realm of fascination, seeing how these different kinds of ports sort of carry out. And again, the benefit, you know, being on the Switch is like you can take this on the go, which is kind of cool. You can have a big Biomutant adventure wherever you're headed off to. And as I said, I do actually really quite like this one. I know there's been quite a few different opinions and stuff like that on this experience and whatnot, but I actually think it's kind of cool, especially with the different like things you get to do, if that makes sense. Like you really do get to quite like build like a character, as to say, and you know, you really do feel like your little furry friend has a lot of changes that happen as you kind of continue to, I don't know if evolve is the right word, but you do get to see some crazy things as you go through this. And this is really just the opening kind of tutorial area, but when you get into the game and you really get into it, you get to go to the big open world. Oh, that is some aggressive resolution scaling. But yeah, like a lot of it is just kind of doing like these crazy like moves and stuff, and just blasting enemies, and it's really neat. It's colorful, and it's like, yeah, basically just everything went bad globally, or I don't know globally, but everything in this area is just really bad. You're like a little cutesy creature that's here to do chaos and destruction, and you do so with like a weird kung fu shooting infusion and stuff like that. And like a lot of it is really, you get better guns and better tools, and you get into the rhythm of it. There's elements of like tribal building, I guess you would say, as you kind of work for these different factions and build them up. And there's like a more linear way to kind of go through it, but you are free to sort of explore and salvage from like these different command posts and whatnot throughout the experience. So like there might be like, oh, this area, if you go and explore it, there'll be some things to collect and gather along the way, and you're rewarded when you go out and find items and things. And there's like little puzzle stuff too, if that makes sense. Like it's not ridiculous puzzles, but it's like, okay, how do I get to this area? How do I do this thing? I think that in itself is like pretty cool and fun. Like you do get like a little bit of a reward when you go out and actually gather stuff in that, and it has like a little bit, some of it could be a little difficult, but it's not too crazy to go through. Like I think the hardest part on the Switch though is going to be like your performance and everything like that, but at least this game's got like a really good color range so that enemies don't like just blend in too weirdly, if that makes sense. Like you can distinctly see your enemies, and I think this is going to look a lot better than it does like when you're watching it on YouTube. I think it's going to look a lot better than the gameplay actually looks, just because it's like a little bit more compressed. Because I'm looking at like my preview window and I'm like, oh, that looks way sharper, and then I'm looking at it on my 4K TV and I'm just like, oof. I'm like again, like it's fine, you know, in terms of like a Switch game, it's about what I expect, but it's just like, this is a very stark contrast from what I'm used to. It's kind of funny. So going back to it, you know, as I said, it's like it's an open world experience. It's got a lot of neat areas to it. I had fun like working through it. By the end of it, I was kind of like, okay, this is solid. There's some weird like boss type situations, and you know, they're always kind of like mixing it up too, which I appreciated. I don't know how to describe that the best here, but ow! Yeah, they've got like some weird boss elements with like environmental stuff, and that in itself was pretty cool. As I like, you know, fought off these different things, and then some of the bosses had different, I guess you would say, thematic themes to them in terms of like what they did. It was also cool exploring this like clearly destroyed, desolate, like lost world where these animals have come in and kind of built like their own quirky societies and stuff, and there's some like bigger monsters and smaller ones, and then there's the whole like weird sludge thing, and then on top of that, you saw it earlier, but there's like a morality kind of thing too in the pathing system, so we kind of picked that, and you're basically embraced by different stuff. Like those elements lead into your role-playing mechanics when you're playing the game. You know, you get sort of elements that change up your character further, and it's like, okay, I'm embracing this darker side of things. Okay, we're probably gonna want to increase our vitality so we don't die as fast. It's like it's actually a very personalized kind of creature. Close combat or ranged combat? Probably ranged combat. Automatic rifles, boom div, AYZR. Okay, sure, why not? Then you get all these different abilities and combo attacks. It's really quite in depth. Wong Fu. Seriously, you would be, I think, genuinely kind of shocked by how much stuff is in this one. And it does the whole usual kind of open world thing where it starts off a bit easygoing. You get like some linear stuff, and then once you're really like free, you're sort of out there in the big open world, gathering better tools and preparing to like fight and smash and destroy stuff. It's kind of interesting. Oh, and then you get other like traversal methods too, which is kind of neat. It's really, I don't want to throw out that it's like Breath of the Wildy, but you get to, it's kind of fun when that stuff gets revealed. I don't know if people want things to be like really spoiled on things, but when you get to like actually have some crazier traversal things when you're going out and about, it's like pretty entertaining. I also like that it's done in a storyboard presentation. Like I've mentioned that, you know, it's kind of very comic book like, but it's also the element. Am I gonna drown here? Am I gonna actually make this across? Yeah, of course I am. I had that coming because I clicked the wrong. I clicked the wrong button on the Joy-Con, which is deserved. But yeah, the narration and stuff is kind of funny because they do it in the flair of a nature doc. You get what I mean? Oh, it's so slow. It's like painful when you die on the slow loading on the Switch here. It's like pain. Like it shouldn't be that penalizing to die. Like to just not jump over water, and it's just like, ugh. You get what I mean? Like that really doesn't feel like that sequence should take that long, but you know, it's just a Nintendo Switch thing, right? Very much looking forward to the successor of this platform, and taking another look at all these games is going to be a lot of fun. I'm actually really gearing up for that, the next Switch and everything. Defeat the Morks. Yeah, so you got our guy here talking, and I'm just like, to me it feels very like nature doc-esque, which is kind of funny. And you know, it's just the whole thing is really absurd. Like it's just like this weird fever dream of like a post-apocalyptic world. And you know what? Like honestly, we've had so many different post-apocalyptic worlds, so many different role-playing games. I'd say this one is actually genuinely unique. Like I'm trying to think of other ones like this, because I mean, there's lots of creature things where creatures are going about, but this is sort of like a comic book kung fu kind of mixed battle thing, and it's neat. I really do kind of like this one, and from what I recall, I like it a little bit more than a lot of other people did, which I think is a little sad, because I think it's generally solid. It's not like the wildest like peak of the open world kind of thing ever, but you know, it's kind of neat. Oh, and I should also, let me think about this. I think this is the gyro or something like that. Let's go to the settings. Settings. Oh, they've even kept the photo mode with this, which I think is kind of fascinating. Toggle sprint. Yeah, they got the gyroscope on, so that's something you can change or turn off over here. I'm not huge on gyroscope settings for the Switch, but I know a lot of people swear by them, which is fascinating to me. So you got some consumables and tools, and then yeah, you kind of get like gear. We don't have any items. Well, it's tutorial stuff. Yeah, we got like a little bandana, and your guy actually like just pants. Your guy like changes a little bit based on like based on the equipment you find and stuff. And you always have like a very rugged sort of apocalyptic look as you would, as it's just sort of scraps of materials thrown together to make you look really cool. Kind of sweet in that regard. Yeah, there are a lot of cool, neat places to come across when you're playing this. Just in terms of like these apocalyptic spaces, and I don't think you get a gist of what happened, but
Toxanol built vessels called
yeah.
arcs to save themselves from the impending doom. But was it too late?
Yeah. There you go. You get like a little tease here or there about stuff. It's more about your adventure, if that makes sense. You found a puzzle. I hate puzzles. Just kidding. Okay, rotate. There we go. I think we can solve this. Yeah, we did it. Is it frozen? I was kind of looking forward to that.
Their rare earth mining and nuclear industries generated tons of waste, and without consideration for the future, they dumped it all in land.
Yeah, see, a little bit of environmental thing on that one.
That's when they made the big mistake. The sound of spark metal going pew pew is never a good thing.
I mean, it can be.
Coming from behind that door.
It definitely can be. I think this is actually the most focus you get on the before stuff, and then a lot of it's like... It really is more about your character just going on this, like, journey
it's going to take a bit of
across this, like, wasteland. It's a neat game. It really is. Like, I don't... Uh-oh, that's not good. Oh! You see your little creature skeleton. I forgot how fun that was.
Let's try that again.
Yeah, once more with feeling, am I right? Holy. There we go. Yeah, it's kind of cute seeing your guy getting zapped and stuff. I actually forgot about the electric skeletons on your character go. There's lots of environmental stuff too. That's a big part of this game. Because obviously you saw where our character changed up as well, but like when you do go from like region to region to region, there are elements of like, hey, you need to be able to like have this to be prepared for this section. I don't remember it ever being like a real pain to deal with. And there's some weird creatures you meet too that you interact with across your journey, as you've already seen, I think. But like, you know, there's some areas that are a little bit more hostile, and you have to kind of get prepped for those spots. And it's kind of, again, basically like a bit of the run-of-the-mill role-playing kind of game in that regard, but not all of them do the whole focus where it's like, hey, you know, this is a really hot area, so we've got to get this suit set up to do this, and that's kind of a big part of it. The open world stuff's really neat, though. It really is. Like, this is just basically getting you set up to eventually be prepared to do that kind of thing, and I think it presents the gameplay in a good way where you get an idea of the combat and stuff, but it becomes a lot more wild when you're actually out there traversing and exploring and seeing the different places and stuff. But yeah, Biomutant to me was pretty fun to play through. I had a good time with it. I know it's not necessarily perfect, but I think it's got some cool missions, it's got some cool gameplay, lots of character choice and how you make your little mutated monster creature. And yeah, I think it kind of, for me, hits the mark. So if you're looking for a little quirky role-playing game that's a little bit different, where there is a grander scale of things too. Like, it's not just, you know, there is a little bit more to the action in the grand scheme of everything. And I won't spoil that either. But there is like an overall goal that you work towards, and I remember finishing it and being like, oh, that was fun and stuff, and then, you know, obviously covering it, playing it, and then moving on from it like I do with most games. So when I saw it was popping up here on the Nintendo Switch, I was just like, I really want to get, you know, kind of a feel for it and see how it is on this platform, because I thought it would be genuinely kind of fascinating, because I like to see the... For me, again, a lot of the fun of the Switch is seeing the changes and the ways they have to do drastic things in order to get these types of games running on this platform, especially if it's something I've already played somewhere else, and kind of being like, oh, you know, how does this all turn out and stuff. Oh yeah, kung fu thing. This game's really, really quirky and strange. It honestly is.